the globe in the areas of planning, urban design, architecture, landscape architecture, interior design, engineering, and interdisciplinary expertise. Sasaki's work expands all the way from South America to Southeast Asia. Dennis at Sasaki's is basically the principal at Sasaki's, and his talk today will be on innovation urbanism. A little bit of background about Dennis. Dennis at Sasaki plays a leading role in planning urban design practice, focusing on strategic thinking and creating value for clients. He approaches urban design work collaboratively, integrating landscape planning and architecture, and that definitely is the future of urban planning of cities, the integration of ecology, as well as building into the urban scale. Graduated from Harvard School of Design and later went on to teach in the Elements of Urban Design Studio in 2018. He has more than 75 design awards, and Sasaki are innovative agents of change, advancing sustainability and resilience in the age of climate action. So without much ado, I'd like to introduce Dennis, and his topic today will be innovation urbanism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for that kind introduction. I will share my screen. Okay, I hope that can be seen. So I'm going to talk about innovation urbanism, and I will show some case studies, and I will talk about primarily a project that the next speaker, Cha, and I and a whole team of people have been working on in the Toronto area in Canada. And but let me tell you a bit about Sasaki. We are based in Boston, beautiful waterfront city in Massachusetts in the United States. And we are a firm of 300 people. And one of the interesting things about us is that we're an interdisciplinary practice. So we have urban designers, landscape architects, data analysts, ecologists, a whole array of disciplines all working together in a very integrated way. And we sit in the heart of one of the most interesting areas in the world. Many great universities surround us, and it's one of the great knowledge hubs in the United States and globally. And so what we have is an incredible array of education institutions, research, biotech, technologies, more than 45 universities. And one of the most amazing places is at MIT. And here you see the heart of MIT, the academic core of MIT. And just here you see all the academic and related buildings. But just next to MIT, just northeast and northwest, are some of the most innovative companies in the world. And they are here because of that synergy between the university and their activities. And they sit in these clusters, Kendall Square and University Park, two of the most successful research innovation districts in the world. And they relate very strongly to the anchor institution, but also to the city, to the region, and to the international context of their activities. So I want to talk about what is an innovation hub. And it's driven by a number of forces. These are just some that I've sort of put together over the years, and these capture some of the forces of an innovation hub. It's about talent. It's about ideas and the competition between companies, between individuals. It's about proximity. These companies want to be near a university or an anchor institution or near each other. So a kind of density and proximity is critical. These innovation hubs thrive on mobility, easy access, easy connections, walking, transit, highly connected and entwined with each other. They are always mixed use. The most successful are mixed use, living, working, the in-between social spaces are critical. They're about placemaking, about an identity, a there, where they have a sense of being in terms of public realm and the places they make. They thrive on partnerships between business, between academia, between each other. And so this kind of clustering of companies, of entities working together, they feed off each other. And most critically is the infrastructure, the support networks, not only the social networks, but the digital networks. And so all of these factors drive successful innovation hubs. So I'm going to talk about a project we've been working on for about 8 years now. It began with a campus master plan for Monterey Tech. Monterey Tech was founded in the mid-1940s as the MIT of Mexico. An engineer graduated from MIT and went back home and felt he had to create something for Mexico, for Latin America. And they built up a university that now has 29 campuses, almost 90,000 students, a whole network of high schools. But we began work on their flagship campus in Monterey. And here you see the district that has grown up and the academic core. And this is the campus itself in the blue area. The academic core is this square with the very green heart. And next to it are a number of areas of very low utilization and a lot of surface parking. And part of our master plan was to establish a framework for growth, for evolution. They're a highly ambitious institution. And they had for years focused on academics. But they triggered an amazing amount of success in terms of business, entrepreneurship, political leadership, and creativity. And so we worked with them to create a series of mixed-use districts that would allow them to form partnerships with entrepreneurs and with the larger global business community. So we'll look at one of them that we worked on, this mixed-use research cluster. When we did our master plan for the campus, it triggered a over $1 billion, it's probably $2 billion by now, of private investment all around the campus. This is investment in housing, in commercial places, in all sorts of business enterprises. And so, although it's a private university, very focused on its academic programs, our plan suggested a vote of confidence in the future, and many others were drawn to this place to invest. And one of those key investment areas is this new innovation district. We worked with the university to establish and advance an innovation ecosystem. So that meant the power of academic and research, the power of partnerships for allied industries, working with entrepreneurs, making a place where people can share ideas, whether in science, technology, business, working with the district itself in terms of housing, all the kind of forces, food, community space, all the life of an urban district, and all done in a highly collaborative way. And so we've always thought we did this diagram to capture this kind of mixed-use district where people can engage with each other, advance their work, their life through what we call creative collisions. So how do you do a place that thrives on creative collisions? So here you see the site area and some dilapidated housing, a very poorly designed tower that actually consumes more energy than the whole campus. And so it really has no future. It's very outdated, and a lot of surface parking and underutilized land. We recognize the value of the site and the importance of beginning to connect it to the heart of the academic core. We worked with the university to develop a series of research buildings, a plan for housing, a district energy hub, and at the heart, a major public space with what we call the innovation hub, a kind of mixed-use building that would become the heart and focus of this district, completely open to the street, open to the public realm, an attractor itself, and highly connected, in this case, with the academic core. The ground floor of this district is critical in that the public realm and the private and public activities of all the buildings need to relate to the sidewalk, to the public spaces, and really reinforce the district as a hub of energy and ideas. Unlike the academic core, it thrives on density. It's an opportunity to make much taller buildings than you normally would in an academic setting. And so the innovation hub is kept low, related very much to the public space, but you can see the research buildings, the housing, all having a great amount of density supported by transit and a very strong pedestrian network. We're currently working on 2 buildings. The first phase of this, it'll evolve over time, a research incubator building in blue on the left, and we're beginning work on the innovation hub building and the public space. And so right at the beginning, you'll have a very strong place identified, facing the street, facing the public realm, completely open and accessible. So these are some early drawings of what this building how it might work. You can see it's very connected to the plaza. It has a big internal atrium. It has external terraces, and it's really about a whole array of opportunities to maximize engagement and interconnectedness between all the tenant partnerships. So this is a building that is not a lab building necessarily, it's not an office building necessarily, but it's full of these kinds of spaces, collab spaces, where people of different interests might share working and social spaces, different kinds of work environments. This is a project we did next to MIT for Microsoft called the Nerd Center. It's about maker spaces, places where simulations can occur, where digital connections globally can happen. It's about multi-purpose spaces that are flexible and allow for a vast array of activities to occur. It's about collaboration at many levels, whether just a pair of people to whole groups of people. And it's about engaging and meeting and focusing on the work being done. And it's full of informal spaces where people can meet and engage. A different kind of project we did at Arizona State University. Arizona State is one of the most dynamic public institutions in the United States, very large university. And we developed a design for a district that was associated with the university, but the university is completely focused on its academic programs and everything that entails. And they invited a development partner, private development partner, to join with them to develop a mixed-use district right next to the academic core. And here you see the arena of the university's super successful basketball team, and a mixed-use district of research buildings, workspaces, hotel, housing, and you can see the district right next to the heart of the university. It's a massive university in Arizona, and you can see how our district connected up the campus to transit with a very strong public realm armature that linked up everything and that created great meeting places and a public realm where people can engage and connect with each other through a series of privately developed buildings that all support and reinforce each other. So this was the land that the university owned, and the development team is now underway developing this mixed-use district right next to the campus. And here you see some of the early phase buildings being implemented. And so the district is like a living lab. It engages with the activities of the university, but the entrepreneurial enterprises are able to relate through the public spaces and the array of uses to create something that's very different from a normal mixed-use urban environment. Cha will present after me, but we've been working now for about, well, for a number of years, 2 years at least, I think, on a remarkable project in Canada. And this is the site of a coal-fired energy plant that was built in the early 50s and called the Four Sisters, heavily polluting, really not contributing to the environment at all. And in the early 2000s, it was decided to shut it down and to tear it down and to rebuild a gas-fired, I believe, power plant. And the community rose up. Here you see the site near downtown Toronto, in Mississauga, which is a booming area of the Metro Toronto area, near with the airport, the main Toronto International Airport nearby, and the site sits on the lake. And look how amazing this piece of land is. Now the power plant's gone, and you see downtown Toronto in the distance and the waterfront of Lake Ontario right there. Early on, the community, the surrounding community, worked together to produce with a consultant a plan for a mixed-use district. And our client, a team of development partners, won a competition to be designated the developers. And one of the things they realized was this is an incredible site at the heart of a globally powerful network of cities around Toronto, with Mississauga sitting kind of in the middle of it all. And so we began a process with the city, with the community, to develop and advance the master plan at a higher density and in a way that created what we believe was more value, more excitement, and a more dynamic new urban district. And we began with the idea that it should be highly connected to its context and to the region through transit, 2 nearby transit stations, a whole array of park systems along the lakefront, and to draw the energy of the waterfront deep into the district, deep into the community. And this is what we call a framework plan, which is the armature, the sort of bones of the development, the kind of public realm network that supports the evolution in a flexible way of a mixed-use district. And you can see a transit loop coming into the heart of the district, which can have AV vehicles, bus systems, and in purple you see a work-driven environment of research that I'll talk about. In pink you see a kind of retail heart and the array of green public parks. The plan that is emerging is this. It's a series of urban blocks defining in a very strong way a number of major public spaces. And this is consistent with, I think, a condition that we must pay attention to in these times of global pandemics and healthy living and sustainable design, which is the outdoor public realm and how urban development and public realm and healthy living support each other. Just at a glance, it's about 8,000 dwelling units. It's almost 2 million square feet of workplace. It has almost 200,000 square feet of retail. 20,000 people will be living here, 9,000 jobs, and a whole array of public lands and cultural facilities. So the place is structured around a transit loop with the highest densities being along this loop. A lot of sensitivity to density issues and overwhelming the public space of the waterfront. And we worked with the city and the community to arrive at what is an acceptable balance. You see the retail hub facing the water, and here you have a view looking south towards the lake. And so all over the world, people are drawn to water. They want to get to the waterfront. It's an attraction, and it is a place where people want to be. And you can see in this image how we've drawn the space of the waterfront deep into the district. And so here you see this very dynamic waterfront district. We've pushed the towers back so that they don't build a wall blocking the views for everyone else. And this becomes a public space that can be an attraction for people not only living here, but all around it and from all over Metro Toronto. Leading directly into the district and arriving at the lakefront is Lakeview Square, a mixed-use hub of retail, restaurants, and activities very much related to the existing piers, the water channel, and the lake beyond. And so everything comes together here. There's hotel, there's apartments, there's a whole array of cultural activities, and everything focuses on Lakeview Square, which just extends down through these green steps right onto the water's edge. At its heart, a whole array of pavilions, a very dynamic, flexible space, an attraction for the whole of Mississauga. And this idea of placemaking is critical. How do you make places? How do you make places for a variety of seasons, events, activities? And here, just from last week, working with our client, looking at right sizing, at seasonal activities, community events. What do you do that makes people want to be here, want to come here and engage not only with each other, but the whole public realm of the district? And it all comes together here in a pedestrian, bike-friendly, urban district that is very much working synergistically with the waterfront and the public realm of the district. And these ordinary places, whether it's outdoor dining, places to sit, places to meet, living, overlooking the space, the cultural landmark in the distance, all working together. One of the most exciting aspects of the district is the innovation district, which is very much entwined with a larger residential setting. And that is these purple blocks in this plan. And our idea is to make a highly connected array of workplaces, labs, research spaces, mixed use areas that are connected by a glass promenade along a great street, and creating a variety of shared public spaces where people might meet, where people might engage with each other. You've got to realize in Canada, you have the winter months, beautiful summer months, and so you need this indoor, outdoor experience. And here is one of the clusters, a kind of very flexible space of research, incubators, all kinds of activities, opening into an atrium and then to the lakefront beyond. The street is very much about mobility and connection, walking, biking, autonomous vehicles, transit connections, and meeting places. Where it all comes together next to Lakeview Square is an innovation hub and a cultural building that is driven by an arts institution. And this idea of mixing retail, living, hotel, art, culture, and innovation is a kind of critical idea in this new district, which comes together right at the waterfront. So here you see the relationship between these different components. Artscape is a kind of maker space for artists. They also promote artists living in close proximity. And the Innovation Hub is based on a number of interesting ideas developing in Boston, the Cambridge Innovation Center, District Hall in Boston. There are places that sit at the heart of these mixed-use districts where people can meet and engage and connect with entrepreneurs locally and globally. So here you see this next to the hotel, a kind of courtyard between these buildings, and this in-between place where all the different activities can engage with each other next to all these research labs, artist lofts on the left, and way in the distance you see the CN Tower of downtown Toronto. Cha and I have been working on ideas for this space, and one idea is this open courtyard. Another idea is to actually enclose it and build an amazing event space where culture, art, innovation, entrepreneurs all come together and engage with each other through media events, really conference and attractions that might bring the presence of this district to the local, national, and global stage. From the street, it's a very engaging complex at this critical point in the district. And here you see it in relation to Lakeview Square and the waterfront itself. Sustainability is a critical force in our work, building a path to net zero, reducing emissions, reducing energy consumption, working with district energy ideas, optimizing renewable energy, developing overall community resilience, and making this district a model of sustainability and innovation. One of the ideas that came out of discussions about how to visualize and externalize these ideas. And one of our key ideas was to develop a sustainability center right on a critical axis of the community, highly visible, and this would be the District Energy Center, the Center for Vacuum Waste, and also a place, a kind of learning center that engages the street, that allows people to see what is going on in the whole district regarding energy and sustainability, place for school kids to come, for conferences to occur, events to occur, a highly visible building. You know, it's a kind of, to institutionalize this and anchor it in the community as an attraction. And there you see it on the right, in the middle of the Innovation District. One of the key issues that we brought to the table with the development team was how to draw value from the waterfront, from the lake, deep into the district. And you can see that instead of building a wall of towers, we turned them 90 degrees, created this new park extending from the waterfront into the community. And this allows people who are many blocks back from the waterfront to engage with the lake, to be part of it, and to feel like they're in a district that is not only connected to the city itself, but to the waterfront, the lake, and the far horizon that is so appealing to people. Public realm is always performative, and here you can see how stormwater is managed through a whole array of rainwater harvesting ideas, water retention, bioswales, permeable paving, and catch basins that reinforce this idea of sustainable design in communities. At the heart of the district, an old canal that was part of the power plant operation, and we've turned this into new public space. And you can see all the different kinds of dwelling units, whether it's towers or townhouses or apartments. And here the canal becomes a skating rink in the winter, in the summer, just a beautiful place to hang out. And there you see it at the heart of the district, a few blocks back from the waterfront. One of the things we are embarking on and have been doing, thinking about carefully, is how energy modeling can reinforce urban design and urban form. And here you see us exploring different kinds of block organization, not only for views, but for green roofs, for reduced energy consumption, really working at an urban design scale on these issues, using modeling tools to analyze the difference between different kinds of blocks, and really looking at how metrics can inform design performance, and how we can aspire to cost-effective strategies and sustainable building guidelines. So here you see some of the modeling that we've done. Here you see the amount of energy based on transparency, and the amount of transparency on the facades, solar radiation, the influence of the urban form on all these issues that affect comfort and ultimate survival, really. I think Chow will talk about some of these ideas of linking economic prosperity, health and well-being, smart city design, smart mobility, and a path to net zero energy. And so here you see this evolving district with the heart of Mississauga in the distance, downtown Toronto in the distance, what was once a power plant, really harming the environment, is now a mixed-use, sustainable district. And some of the issues that I think about in contemporary urban design: the healthy city, the mobile city, the connected city, the digital city, the city of places, the equitable city, the resilient city, and the sustainable city. And so with that, I will conclude.
Thank you very much. That was very illuminating, and certainly the three projects that was presented showed a tremendous array, I think, starting from an existing strong infrastructure city and the transformation of that to a new sort of city development like Mexico, and then the third example coming from is showing a transformation in terms of renewable change from brown sites into something that will become a much more lively city. I'd like to introduce the next speaker that we have, Chung Ha Cha, who is actually very well known in terms of not only in his collaboration but across Southeast Asia. He started and is the co-founder and chair of Reimagining Cities Foundation, and in fact Cha was in Malaysia about 1.5 years ago, and we spoke quite a lot with regards to the new cities of the future and smart cities. And now today he will be talking specifically with regard to carbon neutral cities. So Cha will basically give you a lot more in terms of the background of himself. So I'd like to take over to Cha.
Thank you, Serena. And thank you, Dennis. That was really fantastic. It's really nice that they paired us together like this. Thank you, because we are working on the same project in Lakeview Village, Toronto. Let's see. Why is this not? Okay. So do you see my slide, financing the road to carbon neutral cities? Let's see. Chat. Okay. So Serena tells me yes. Please feel free to not use the chat. You can just jump in and just holler. Okay. So I'd like to thank BK Sinha of Malaysia Green Building Council. He turned us on to this, but I see that Green Tech Malaysia and the British High Commission of the Kuala Lumpur is also sponsoring this. So let me see. I'm sorry for that.
We can see your full slide, Cha. You can just press next. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I was trying to see if I can record this session. Okay, I got it. Well, thank you very much. So I'm going to talk about carbon neutral cities. And why is it not moving? Okay. It's not only about carbon neutrality, right? We all live in cities. There's a tremendous number of people moving into the cities every day. I heard like 1.5 million people move into the cities every week. And so there's that rapid urbanization is providing us with a lot of challenges. So we try to envision a world where we're using digital technology and intelligent design to create smart cities where we want high quality living and high quality jobs. We need money to do that. I'd like to introduce myself, but before I do, this is a photo of what's going on right outside my house. So you might hear some construction work, so I apologize for the noise. In introducing myself, I use numbers. I was born in 1957. And born in Korea, and my parents brought me to the United States in 1963. I graduated college in 79, finished my MBA in 85. I got married in 87, and I returned to Korea in 1992. I've been in finance for over 20 years, and these are some of the organizations that I used to work with. Now for about 12 years, I'm in green buildings, prop tech, smart cities, and sustainability. And we established this small foundation called Reimagining Cities. It's a nonprofit, and we advocate accelerating smarter and greener cities around the world. And this is the cross section where we would like to work, and it's finance, real estate, intersecting with smart, sustainable cities. We collaborate with these organizations, smart city organizations from around the world. And we're also collaborating with GRES, which is the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. And they are now, well, they're becoming the benchmark of reviewing, surveying $5.3 trillion worth of real estate across the world along their environmental, social, and governance practices. And then Propel, which is a real estate prop tech organization based in Paris. So these organizations, we kind of understand what the cities are looking for in smart cities. And then on the other side, real estate, what they're looking for, what are some of their challenges. I was really, it was nice to see. I was reading, the synopsis. It says, commitment to the 2015 Paris Agreement. And I'm a very strong advocate of that. And climate finance is needed. We need money to finance all of these initiatives that we need to take on. And I like when you said large scale investment is crucial. Up until now, we see a lot of small pilot projects, $1 million here, $10 million there. And these small pilot projects, many of them have failed to scale. And I also like the fact that you said, let's do this in sectors that emit large amounts of greenhouse gases. So we are perfectly aligned, and I'm so happy and honored to be speaking with you here today. It also says that we need to develop new innovative funding mechanisms and leverage on private finance. And I must say that even these innovative funding mechanisms, I think Sean Kidney in the UK, he had spoken earlier. He's the founder of Climate Bonds Initiative. Yeah, there are a lot of mechanisms, instruments, ways of getting money into green projects, but it still relies on getting bankable projects, right? And when we look at this, these are some of our objectives and challenges. Our view is that governments do not have enough money to tackle the global challenges of rapid urbanization and climate change. So we are in alignment. We believe with what you are saying, that we need to leverage on the private funding. We investors, bankers, we like large-scale investments. And let's focus on the sectors that emit large amounts of greenhouse gases to be impactful. We love Greta. And here's this young girl and started in Sweden, in Stockholm. And she created a movement, a global movement. And what I see in this picture is if governments would embrace some of the things that she was doing in terms of carbon neutrality, climate action, these are all of your supporters. And I think we can together, become the positive change that we want to see in the world and kind of accelerate that. And, we mentioned the Paris Agreement back in 2015, and they adopted Buildings Day, which is saying that we have to reduce the amount of energy consumed by the buildings. We have to drive down greenhouse gases emitting from the buildings because we use so much energy to heat it, to cool it, for lighting, etc. And they're saying that if we do not reduce the amount of greenhouse gases from the buildings, we have no chance of achieving the Paris Agreement targets of keeping temperature rises below 2 degrees. So Buildings Day was an acknowledgement that, hey, buildings have an important role to play in climate action. These are some charts from Architecture 20, looking at the road to carbon neutrality by 2030. Ed Mazria is the founder of Architecture 2030, and he's advocating, hey, let's do it have interim goals. People in countries, cities, corporations, they say, oh, we're going to be carbon neutral by 2050. But what about 2020, 2021, or 2025? So I liked how he put in 5-year intervals that we should be achieving, improvements like this. And if we look at the global greenhouse gas emissions by the sector, we do realize that the buildings are emitting a very big chunk of the greenhouse gases. And depending on how we, design our cities, we definitely know that we could reduce some greenhouse gases from transportation if we did things like TOD, walkability, bikeability, using more public transit, less cars. We could get a big chunk of this. So this is kind of what I'm advocating. The road to financing carbon neutral cities. Well, let's work with the private sector, which is real estate developers and bankers who are very customary to lending money or investing their money in the real estate sector to drive down greenhouse gases. I checked on Malaysia's situation, and it seems as if you're very much in alignment with the global greenhouse gas emissions, about 1/3 from transport, 1/3 from factories, and 1/3 from buildings. So let's focus here for large, impactful investments for climate action. I love this study, Code for Smart Communities. It was written by Smart Cities Council, an organization based in Washington, D.C. But this particular publication was made by Adam Beck, and he's in charge of the Australia and New Zealand region. And he's saying, their objectives are livability, workability, sustainability, right? And the key is why don't we work on communities? You can't do all of Kuala Lumpur. So why don't we work in pockets within the city where we can try to drive the development with clear smart communities framework. And some of the desired outcomes or guidelines that we would want to have would be, let's focus on what do we need for people, planet, profit. I like that definition of sustainability, the 3 Ps or the triple bottom line of sustainability, which is people, planet, profit, not just profit. We want citizen inclusion, carbon neutral circular economy concepts embedded in the development, and the notion of innovation districts and digital twins to drive economic growth. And that's why it's really fun working with Dennis, the previous speaker from Sasaki, based in Boston, because they have so much experience in innovation districts around the world, and they kind of get it, and they help create nice spaces for academia, students, and businesses within innovation districts. So looking at it is, that smart communities framework. So the Smart Cities Council is saying, we believe community scale transformation is the most effective way to influence the whole city and the regions. So if we look at that, right, let's focus on large projects. Yes. So large mixed use developments, urban revitalization projects where you're looking at districts of the city where it's really old and poor and dilapidated, and we can revive the community and the economy. TODs. University campuses are really cool places to target as well. A net zero energy, smart, sustainable campus so that you can engage the professors, the academia, and you get the students to learn early on before they go out into their business careers, to learn about all of the business areas and careers that they can develop, pushing good things or developing careers around businesses for good. And of course, carbon neutrality and circular economy needs to be one of the goals. Of course, we need to improve the lives of citizens as we're building this smart communities framework. And then, we got to talk about how do you create jobs and drive local economic growth. So we love the notion of innovation districts, digital twins, and living labs. And we can, have a deep dive discussion on any of these areas at another time, but let me just go on to explain. And by doing this in pockets of these, transforming neighborhoods, I think we can also inspire the world to do the same. So that brings us to Lakeview. This is the project. Some of these slides you've already seen from Dennis. I've borrowed it from him, but this is a $6 billion US development. And we're working with the owners of this property, the city, the community. And I'm not quite sure if this is going to work, but how's our timing? I'm going to skip this. It was a video on Business Sweden, various companies from Sweden coming to Mississauga, speaking with the government, speaking with the community, working with the developers. Dennis was there, I was there, and it's really, it's a wonderful process of building this ecosystem. And we're not just working with the Swedish companies, we're working with, other companies as well, obviously. Okay, I'm going to skip this. I think Dennis went over that. So this is the area that we're working on. Overall, I think Dennis mentioned that he's doing energy modeling. So we're looking at a district level energy modeling to see what are some ways that we can use passive design strategies to drive down energy consumption, and so that we're closer to carbon neutrality. This master plan provided by Sasaki was very well received. The council of like 9, they look like judges. They approved this plan. The community approved the plan unanimously. The other thing, as outlined here in the red line that I drew terribly, I'm sorry, but this is kind of the non-residential sector. All of the rest are mostly residences, apartments, and this sustainability center in the middle. So what we're looking at is taking a little deeper dive into the innovation district design strategy. Not just the buildings, but what is the ecosystem that needs to be designed here? Is same, this is like I call it the Intel chip here. So a lot of people, when they say, oh, smart sustainable developments, I want to see a case study. Well, they're hard to find. There are many, if we can say, but they don't, they have little bits and pieces. So we like to kind of recommend that instead of looking at the case study, you should look at the process of how, others have approached. So here in Mississauga, we saw these 4 plans that they've published. They have on the right is the Economic Development Strategy 2020 to 25. They have a Climate Action Plan. They have a Smart City Master Plan. And this one was a COVID response. They have an Economic Recovery Framework that they're working on. And of course, a lot of these objectives by the city of Mississauga, they are in alignment with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So taking a look at the Mississauga goals again, what we're saying is, hey, private sector and public sector, why don't we help each other to identify shared goals? And where we wound up was the Lakeview's desired outcomes. We created 5: employment, digital innovation, climate positive, smart mobility, and health and well-being. And so let's align it to the city's goals. So we're having a lot of discussion with city officials, the region, government, the citizens, and it's all being shaped and formed as we discuss them with the community. And this goes back to developing this together in that clear smart cities framework that the Code for Smart Communities publication talked about. And we want to take that smart communities framework. It's not a piece of document, but it's something that we develop together, and we put on a name, a developer's guidelines. So if you want to build here, these are some of the things that you need to do. We're looking at the notion of the quadruple helix. It's not just a public-private partnership, but we add in citizens and academia to the mix. So these 4 are the key stakeholders, and they are all part of major decision-making. We adopted that quadruple helix, which is public, private, academia, and citizens. And in Japan, they apply that to a little over 20 of their smart city projects. And they call that governance structure a UDC, an urban design center. So here you have UDC Co, you have UDC, O, UDC BK. So depending on their location, they have a UDC something. And we had the pleasure of visiting one of the UDCs. This is the Kashiwa no Ha Smart City. Maybe some of you have heard of this. And it was really interesting where the private was, the business was driven by Mitsui Fudosan, which is one of the largest business groups in Japan. And they established this urban design center, UDCK. And the chairman of this UDCK was City of Tokyo University person, and he was the chairman of this UDC. So very interesting how they interact. and have workshops, and they even have a physical office right in this development where people can just walk in and learn, complain, whatever you like. For smart, sustainable city projects, we always love including innovation districts and digital twins. So getting back to that clear, smart communities framework, we want to attract private investors. We want to attract global talent, and we want to build that ecosystem to drive local economic growth. So whenever we talk about smart cities or communities, people jump on the technologies. Oh, are you going to have district energy? Oh, are you going to have solar panels? Or how about geothermal? And rather than jumping on the technologies, we were talking with the developer and saying, let's go with the desired outcomes first in alignment with the city and UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we came up with these 5. And then we can start to look at what are the approaches, what are the enabling technologies. And so for digital innovation, we particularly like digital twinning, climate positive. There are so many ways of approaching that, but energy modeling and simulation on a district level is one, and to see how much benefit we can get through passive design strategies, which is the cheaper form of reducing the amount of energy that you will need to have comfortable environments. We do want to attack this notion of smart mobility, not only walkability or bikeability, but we wanted to attract the autonomous vehicle tech companies to Lakeview, to the city of Mississauga. And then health and well-being, that's another big area that we're still, co-creating ideas as to what to do in that particular desired outcome. Then we can start to apply public-private academia community. We discuss, are these the right desired outcomes that we want to achieve here at Lakeview, here in Mississauga? What are some of the sectors that we need to engage? And then now we can start to look at, oh, these are the partners that we need to, who are instrumental to drive us, to get us to these desired outcomes. And most of these companies down here, the universities, the cities, we're speaking with them as, and yeah, to develop this further. Yeah. I like this framework. And I think this kind of framework can be applied anywhere in the world. And I'm hoping that Malaysia or the ASEAN region would also use similar approaches in developing their smart communities. So getting to that, autonomous vehicle ecosystem, we're like so amazed that there are so many different kinds of technologies that you need to make an autonomous vehicle work, right? So autonomous driving systems, you got pre-built maps, you have V2X systems, data simulation, radar, cameras. So if you can invite these, curate these kind of companies to come into your innovation district, it would be so much more efficient, and you could start to become global leaders in this technology. We love digital twins, and this is an image that we kind of created, taking the notion of public clouds on the right, and that's the government. Whoops. All right. Hybrid cloud and private clouds. So when people talk about digital twins, there are so many different variations as to what people are thinking about. And a lot jump on, oh, it's a 3D visualization. So this thing on the right corner, a 3D model. Oh, you have nice colors. Some of these 3D models look like the actual city. They're so good and so granular with their the graphics. But for us, The 3D visualization is important, but for us, I think we're more interested in the data and the data analytics. And more so, not really, we have too much data. We like to figure out what are the desired outcomes that we want to achieve, and what kind of decisions can we make better so that we can get there more efficiently and more effectively. So the city objectives, you see digital twinning and better city planning is sometimes put out there as one of the uses for digital twins. Traffic management, infrastructure management. Yesterday I was on a webinar with the Swedish companies, and they were talking about district energy, and they wanted to do digital twins of all the piping that's in the ground, to check the flow of the materials in the pipes, usually hot water or cold water or whatever it may be, and they want to check the temperature or the pressure and all these kind of things. We are now focusing a little bit on the private clouds for the developer, the real estate owner. And we believe that these are some of the areas they would want to have a digital twin, and that's energy optimization of the buildings. Are they wasting too much energy or too much money on heating and cooling? Health and well-being, starting with the monitoring of indoor air quality. Space utilization, I think that's becoming much more important and attractive to owners of real estate. How is my how's my office space being used? I believe there's an example like Microsoft. They had 5 floors in Singapore. And when we visited them, they said they used space utilization kind of data analytics to understand that at any given time, if there were 100 people on each floor, only 70 people were in the office at any peak time. So they got rid of a floor. So now they only use 4 floors, and they converted one of the floors into like a flex space. So now a lot of people are outside visiting customers, and they would book a room or book a meeting room or book a quiet space where they can work. And then of course, in Lakeview case, because of 8,000 apartments, we're looking at the smart home automation. So this is, when you talk about digital twins, this is a dashboard that we designed. In the middle is Lakeview Village, but it could be any district in Kuala Lumpur or in Penang or, Kuching, wherever. It could be a new development, new township. And I have never seen the data. I've been in a lot of basements of large buildings. I've never seen the data being organized where all the energy being used is on one side. And so we broke it down into the typical energy modeling and simulation categories of heating. How much energy are we using for heating? How many kilowatt hours? How about cooling? How much energy are we using for lighting, indoors and out? Hot water, ventilation, electrical vehicle charging, plug loads. And if we know these types of categories of energy, we can also see what kind of fuel types we're using to supply that energy. So on the right, we would have all of the energy supply. And on the energy supply, we would categorize them as to how much of it is dirty fuel and how much of it is clean fuel. And here we have, it would be live data. We'd have 1 minute like updates as to what's going on with these key metrics that we've identified. Here in the corner, we have health and well-being, but we're going to take it off of this kind of energy slide and create a new dashboard for health and well-being, new and improved, I might add. So we're doing some research on that as well. So this is kind of what the digital twin would provide. And now here, what we would need to do is, where do we want to get to? So carbon neutrality, is that where we want to go? So we would be monitoring this every minute, 24 hours, 7 days a week, constantly, to see if we're on track or we're not. We're not depending on an annual energy audit to see what's going on. We would have just live data and graphs that give you live feedback. And on the energy supply side, we can say, oh, clean energy, we're only 30% clean energy, 70% we're using coal, we're using oil, we're using gas. And so next year, we want to improve our clean energy to 30%. And then by 2025, 50%. So these kind of metrics enables us to set, measurable objectives. And I think we lack that point. We set objectives, but they're not measurable, right? As much as I love the notion of happy city, how do you measure happiness? And one of my mentors told me, hey, Cha, if you're trying to measure happiness, I'll tell you one thing, you're not happy, right? So how do you measure? So I think we should be focusing on measurable objectives. This is an image by Dennis and his team. So what we're saying is this digital twin, this innovation district, and the residences, we're co-creating the future of living together. So, yeah, and I think that's the end of my presentation. How's my timing?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Cha. You are a bit early, but no problem. What we're thinking to do now that Dennis is still with us, rather than go to the third speaker, I would actually like to invite a Q&A session between us.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Dennis and myself. And the last speaker is a pre-recorded speech, but it's really about the Merdeka Tower, which is the tallest tower under construction now. I think it'll be finished next year. And that's interesting because that's with green finance, green sukuk as we call it, which is Islamic finance. And we had a lot of talk yesterday with regards to green bond and climate bond. I didn't know there was such a thing as called climate bond. And I think out of 17 projects, 10 of which Malaysia has gone in for the green bond. So Dennis, I'd like to invite you here on, if you'd like to turn on. And I'm not sure if all three of us will be able to be seen. And maybe start with a Q&A session. And I would like to start off with Dennis with regards to the three projects that you've presented today. In developing sustainable cities for the future, obviously what sustainable goals or what you adopt for each location is quite different from one to the other. And I wanted to know whether that's become a practice now that when approaching these master plans for new developments of cities, either renewal or regeneration or transformation, whether you do start with specific sustainable goals for each one of these locations.
Yeah, I would say that, we have a kind of core philosophy around sustainability that cuts across many aspects of a project and the forces that drive sustainable design. I would say that, ecology and that kind of ecological approach is at the heart of everything we do. You know, we have our roots in landscape architecture. Our founder, Hideo Sasaki, was the chairman of landscape design at Harvard University Graduate School of Design in the 50s and early 60s. And when he founded the firm, he founded it as a landscape architect who wanted a kind of interdisciplinary approach. And so when we design our projects, whether it's a district or a landscape or a building, we integrate all these points of view. And so I would say more and more now we're using metrics and analytical tools to better understand what we're doing, especially around energy and performance, whether it's a building itself or a collection of buildings or a landscape.
Yeah. And I think that's becoming even more important these days than it's using nature to, like, heat island effect. There's in hot climates, they're using a lot of landscaping and trees to bring down the ambient temperature of where people are living and playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a question which I think really delves slightly, and I would put it to Cha. Which aspect or aspects of the features designed within this development attracted finance and funding? Was there tangible and intangible factors, and what were they? I think this is very interesting for us to know whether we, can attract the type of finance and funding, and it may go back to what is the payback time and in these achieving these targets. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's a great question. I think for me is when you have goals that the city wants to have smart and sustainable toward carbon neutral cities or communities, if you put those kind of objectives to the developers, I think they can serve as, for example, if you're, if you reach these targets, you can build 10% more, right? So this project has a hotel, it has a few office buildings, have retail and some apartments. If they say that you can build GFA 10% more if you achieve these sustainability goals, I think that the private funding, the investor, the developer, could fund all of that, right? I don't like providing incentives from the government to the developers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, I will say that most of my finance friends, when I talk about, smart, sustainable, these kind of things, and they say, oh, what incentives does the government provide? And I lash back at them and say, that's money, tax collection from individuals, most who are not very wealthy. And the government is going to provide incentives to the rich big companies. I think we shouldn't depend on that kind of support. I think you let the market forces go, and if you say, oh, you can build 10% more, hey, but if you build 10% more, they would be willing to pay more for the land, or and shift some of that money to buying sensors and technologies to build part of that digital twin to share with the government. That's the angle that I would like to take.
Dennis, was the Lakeview project development in Mississauga, is that how you pronounce it? Was that designed, is it designed to be a carbon neutral? Is that the target that the city is aiming towards?
It's it's a goal, I think,
Yeah.
and we want to head in that direction, but it hasn't advanced enough yet in terms of the individual building designs and they.
Well, we're not at that stage yet, right? In terms of Lakeview. And I'd like to jump in to answer the fact that, nothing is concrete, but the CEO of Lakeview, he does want to strive for a net zero energy community. We are looking at setting goals for like carbon neutrality by 2040 for the entire community. And Dennis and his team, his sustainability team, we're proposing, hey, let's do a district energy modeling of the entire community to see how green can we get, meaning how energy efficient can we get without over investing. So that's a whole new, another area we can discuss as to how can you achieve sustainability without throwing too much money at it.
Yes, I think that's very true. Cha, there's another question for you. What should we expect on tasks of creating digital twin?
Again, it depends on which side you're, are you at the, for example, public sector or are you in the private sector? For me, we don't, we have that assumption that governments don't have enough money. So there are the IBMs of the world, the Microsoft, and they're pitching their products to the government to get government budget for projects. For us, we'd like to look at what decisions do we need to make in the private sector, real estate, mixed-use communities. So, what are the tasks? Well, we've identified those 3 or 4 areas. One is energy optimization. Why do you want to invest in sensors, or why do you want to bring all that data that is already existing in the BMS systems up onto the cloud, right? Yeah. That's because you want to drive down energy, because energy is money. And if you drive down your expenses, you're going to increase profitability. So we're kind of aligning the interest of sustainability, which is driving down greenhouse gases, to increasing profitability. So those are the little connections that we like to make when we work with the private, the investors or the developers. Yeah.
So I have a question for both of you. I'm not sure where this is coming from. How do we come in for financing projects in Canada? I guess in listening previously, there was for the lake project view, I think some involvement or twinning or collaboration with Sweden. Maybe that is to look at investment of Sweden to Canada or technology. In this question specifically is asking, how do we come in for financing projects in Canada?
Well, for me, I'm on the business side, so if you're interested in financing, give me a call and I'll turn you on to the owners. If you're just looking to lend money, personally, I'm not very interested. For me, when we look at how do we finance carbon neutral cities and communities, we look at the equity. And that's one thing that I like to really, really like emphasize. Everyone or most of the public sector, they're used to getting money from the central government or issuing bonds. That's debt. That's borrowings. You have to pay that back. What we like to focus on is trying to get the private sector to invest equity, meaning if the project fails, they lose it, right? This is money at risk. So financing projects in Canada, if you're interested in equity investment, would love to talk to you. If you're interested in just lending money, I can just refer you on to the developer, the owner.
Okay. Another question.
If they would be interested, I'm sure they, they're experienced developers in Ontario for decades. So I'm sure they have their existing bank relationships. So if you're interested in trying to lend money, I think it's going to be very, very hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Dennis, how would you suggest an example, a suitable approach in rural communities with regards to urban planning? And because we've seen, I guess this question is that, you know, 3 examples are showing examples that are fairly developed communities. And so this question is on the efforts for rural communities and urban planning. Have you had any experience, and would you be able to cast some light on what suitable efforts would be able to be done here?
We did a very interesting project with a super enlightened client group in the Philippines a few years ago called Ananas. And what it was an area outside Manila that was growing rapidly. There was a major new expressway that was being planned. And our client owned a piece of property that was sort of no longer viable as agriculture and wanted to develop it as a new community. And they had a very strong social agenda. And one of the things they were interested in and we were interested in was urban agriculture. How could you develop a new community where ordinary people can benefit from being in close proximity to agricultural plots that they might be able to buy with their units or rent? And we even extended it to the commercial sector, where restaurants might own and operate urban farms or urban plots within the community. So this became highly integrated with the urban design plan and really part of the landscape infrastructure of the new community. So, you know, that was one area. Another is sort of compact development and thinking about how you can make communities in a way that promotes healthy lifestyles, well-being, access to open space. Sometimes that's not easy in super dense cities, but in a new community or a rural setting, that is certainly an opportunity.
I think that's a great example from the Philippines. I think the adaptiveness to move and shift the community, but within its own context. I think that's really what you're saying, developing within its context in the right direction. We have another question here. What is the motivation for private companies to fund these projects? What would be their profit from sustainability? How do we convince and motivate them? You know, I think this is a very big question, especially when we start with just buildings itself, you know, to say that the incremental cost may be now today 1 to 3%, but the payback is within 3 years already, and then you're off and running. So, maybe you may be able to illuminate how you get equity investment into these community and these developments and putting in some money into sustainability. What would be their profit from this sustainability financially, apart from the obvious climate action?
Yes. Well, I'm a finance person, so it's all. I think it's a lot about the money, right? So what you say is, let's start on a smaller scale, not a huge community, but on a building, and you put in, you know, energy efficient, you know, boilers and HVAC systems and some sensors and LED lighting, and you could go for or you put in triple pane glass because that's going to drive down energy loads, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes to, you said 1 or 3%. It could cost maybe 5% more, right? Or even more. So what you need to do is for every additional function that you do is to link it to the financial model, right? So we don't particularly look at paybacks. If you look at one item at a time, then you most likely have to look at paybacks. But if you look at the overall investment, we're looking at internal rates of return. We forecast out to like 10, 15 years. And we look at that, what is your IRR or your overall investment returns, taking the time value of money. So, what does it motivate private companies? Depends on whether you're a vendor or a real estate company. You're investing it to make money, right? And for us is, if you're not calculating in your Excel, your financial projection, then you're just guessing. And that's what we're doing at Lakeview. And the owner at Lakeview, he's a really cool guy because, when other people would say, "Oh, that's not possible here," right? And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, couldn't we just calculate it?" And then the
Yeah.
owner would say, "Yeah, hey, get Cha what he needs. Let's calculate it and see, how we can do this." A lot of developers don't calculate it, right? They only talk about increased cost. But if you put in increased cost to drive down your bills, your expenses, then your income gets higher, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Dennis, I guess in this point of pandemic, has that affected any way the approach to the planning that you've already been doing in the works that you've been doing? Do you feel that there's any obvious areas that needs to change? Because I believe seeing a lot of the work, health and well-being, is already adopted into your urban planning.
Yeah, I mean, I would say what the pandemic has done is accelerate certain issues and brought them to the forefront that were certainly well within our kind of philosophy or approach. The idea of landscape and urbanism, the idea of the resilient landscape and the social landscape are very important. And it's always been a factor, but I think it's definitely emphasized now. Walkability, choice in mobility. People talk about the 15-minute city, which means that within 15 minutes, you can walk or ride a bike to almost everything you need in daily life. Potentially your workplace, your place for entertainment and gathering, living, all the elements that make up a great community need to be thought of perhaps in a more compact way. I know people are criticizing density and thinking density is an issue. I strongly disagree. I think it's all about the quality of the density. If you have high density living, give people access to balconies, to outdoor space, to cross ventilation, natural light. There are many ways of designing high density in a healthy way that doesn't extend sprawl out in low density communities, really destroying the planet.
I think what you're alluding to is actually we're going back to the basic principles of, but assimilating higher density to a kind of rural community where everything is within the walkability through technology. I think would
Yes,
would be.
technology. Yeah, technology is definitely part of it. I know Cha has spoken about digital twins and smart city design. I believe in all those things, but I also believe that smart cities need smart design. And that's what I try to emphasize in my talk, is that there's some elemental things about social places, community engagement, culture, integration. These are all very ancient tools that we have in our design toolbox. And when you integrate that with the most contemporary technologies, the potential is amazing.
Well, we have one last question here. What is the status of the smart city? Has
Oh, you
the
don't
project
have to read it. I can read it, and I'll answer that. And I think it says that your consortium has a lot of solutions, and reading down the list of solutions, it's wonderful. All very, very, very good. For Lakeview, it's a little bit too late in the game. So we have been speaking with solution providers for the last 2 years. So a lot of these things, it's kind of in the advanced stages of negotiation. For example, District Energy shortlisted the 4 companies. We selected one that was over a year ago, right? And now we're fine penciling as to what the terms and conditions of that would be. Do we have room for processing solid and liquid waste to electricity? There's a wastewater treatment plant right next door, so we're in discussions with that company to provide that, some of those kind of services to supply energy to the district, to the Lakeview Village District. So, maybe, I'm not quite sure. We could be of service on the on you being a vendor, so to speak.
Okay, thank you very much. From Boston to Taiwan, time difference spans from 12 hours.
I'm in Seoul.
You're in Seoul, sorry. So 12 hours to 4 hours or 2 hours difference, are we? So yeah, incredible time. Thank you very much, Dennis, for giving a wonderful talk. And really have been looking forward to seeing Sasaki's work. You are very well known throughout the globe. And to Cha, Reimagining Cities, I think, is really bringing the smart platform into the sustainability is a terrific combination. So thank you very much. And I'll be making an introduction to the next speaker. Please feel free to listen to the recording of the next speaker. But if you want to sign off now, we'll totally understand. Yeah.
I think Dennis needs sleep. It's really late in the day for him. It's like close to midnight.
But thank you so much. And I hope it was interesting. And I very much enjoyed the questions and the discussion. It's always great working with Cha and his team. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you, Dennis.
See you.
Hey, Serena, I have one recommendation or strong suggestion.
Yes.
Especially if it's for, climate finance, right?
Yeah.
I've been to some sessions where it's about finance. There's 50 people in the room, 20 people in the room, sometimes 100 people in the room. And when we did it live, I always asked the question, how many of you in the audience are finance? And I have never been to a session where there are finance people in the room. Maybe one or two out of 50 or out of 100. Right. So I think there needs to, there's always architects, engineers, maybe some government officials on a very low level, working level, who are very interested to learn. And that's great. But unless you get finance people in the room, maybe in workshops, I would prefer workshops as opposed to, these presentations where you just listen passively and, oh, wow, that was very cool. Right. But really drilling down into, some of these questions, right? We need to drill down with the experts, the finance people who have experience investing billions of dollars in projects.
Finance and developers, I think,
Yes.
The developers of infrastructure and developers of cities or housing or any of these particular areas with finance.
Right. Now, infrastructure, you're going to wind up with most of the money that they are going to put into highways and rail and metro and things like that. The private sector doesn't invest in that.
Yeah.
Right? They lend money to it.
Mm-hmm.
And lending money that's the same thing, right?
True.
So it's the government risk taking on more debt. The private sector, I would say, is housing. No, building and selling houses is not that great. Mixed use developments, TOD, those kind of developers are much better to have workshops with.
Very true. Well, yesterday we had senior financial talks on climate finance and all the rest of it. So we've had the World Bank, we've had capital markets, we've had MNIVEST and a lot of others yesterday. So I think
that's good.
Yeah. And perhaps maybe we should have just mixed it a little bit around so that there is a view on the work as well as the finance component. So then you see real life how it actually transfers itself and applies itself. So thank you very much, Cha.
Thank you.
Seeing you again and perhaps bringing you back into Kuala Lumpur for some financing. I am going to do an introduction to the next speaker and then the video will be playing. So the next speaker we have is Tunku Dato Abdul Aziz Tunku Mahmud. He is the CEO of PNB Merdeka Ventures Sendirian Berhad. Now Merdeka Tower, as everyone in Kuala Lumpur can see, is the tall tower that is being completed at the moment, and it will be the tallest tower in Kuala Lumpur. Tunku Dato Aziz bin Tunku Mahmud is currently the CEO, but the project 118 Merdeka Precinct project comprises of the 118-story tower, observation deck, hotel, retail mall, and residential towers. So prior to his appointment as the CEO of PNB, he was the head of development and property development of Sime Darby's group and Guthrie Property Development Holdings, in 2005 to 2007, and has been the head of Merdeka Ventures Sendirian Berhad currently. So I'm looking to his presentation on the Merdeka 118 Precinct project. Thank you.
And a very good morning to everyone. Thank you, Mr. Singha, for the introduction. And first of all, I'd like to thank you again to Malaysia Green Building Council for inviting me this morning to be a speaker at this conference on financing climate action, which is very relevant to us at PNB Merdeka Ventures when we were doing the financing for our Merdeka 118 development. We are one of the earliest adopters in Malaysia to issue the Merdeka ASEAN Green Sri Sukuk program, and certainly we are more than happy to share our insights and our experience in getting the Sukuk program issued way back in 2017. As the developer and owner of this development, we are committed in instituting and constructing the entire precinct as a sustainable and environmentally conscious project. So in aligning with global standards, when we were looking at raising the funds, we had decided early on that we would be going for a green sukuk financing for the office tower. So what I'd like to do this morning is that to share with you the experiences that we've gone through, and to share with you our journey that we have gone through. Thanks. Can we get to the next slide? As an introduction, Merdeka Wang Madit Tower is a 118-story tower consisting of 83 floors of premium grade A office space, 17 floors of luxury hotel, which is a Park Hyatt Kuala Lumpur, 3 floors of observation deck, and 2 sky lobbies and other related tower facilities. This project is being implemented by PNB Merdeka Ventures Sdn Bhd, which is the project owner for the whole precinct. Merdeka Wang Madit Tower aspires to be a model for workplace safety and sustainability, and targeted for 3 platinum green building certifications under LEED Core and Shell, Green Building Index, GBI, and Green Real Estate or Green RE. Next, please. To give you the context of this development with regards to the whole sustainability efforts, what we are now showing is the 40-acre site of this Merdeka Wang Madit development, where the 2 stadiums, which is the Merdeka Stadium and also the Stadium Negara, would be preserved as a warisan kebangsaan or national heritage sites. And what we have left will be the blue areas, which comprise of the tower, 118-story tower, a retail mall, and also 3 residential towers, and other related facilities such as the ballroom and also the theater that would support the office tower within the precinct. Next, I would like to show the precinct in a more architectural perspective way, where we can see the 2 stadiums flanking the whole development. What we can see on the right-hand side is the tower precinct. The tower sits in the middle of the development, 1 single tower, which is 118-story. At the same time, on the south side of this plan, we have the retail mall with 2 residential towers. At the same time, on the north side, we have the 3rd tower and also the facilities for the tower, which is the ballroom and also the theater. So in order for us to make sure that this development works in most efficient way, we had realigned the road infrastructure system serving the tower. So now we have a perimeter road that goes around clockwise around the precinct. At the same time, we also incorporate a linear park, which you can see in blue, where visitors to the site can then go to the park and view the tower in a more relaxed way. At the same time, the tower is also being served by efficient public transport. We have monorail, we have MRT station, which is the Merdeka station, and also the LRT. So all these services are now in operation and ready to receive visitors when we complete the project in 2022. Next. To give you another context of how how are we going to implement this sukuk financing, in the middle of the plan is the tower, which is in yellow. That tower has got 3 components. One is the office component, which is 83 floors. The one in light blue is the hotel, which is a Park Hyatt Kuala Lumpur. which is about 16 floors. And at the very top, it is the observation deck, which has got about 3 floors over there. And of course, the spire at the very top. On both sides of the tower, we have 2 residential towers, and also another tower on the left-hand side, which is the shorter of the 3, the shortest of the 3. That will be a branded service residence. And at the bottom of it is the more orangey color, is the retail mall. Yeah. So in order for us to do the sukuk financing, what I'd like to do next is to give you how are we going to ring fence the whole development, because it is going to be a green sukuk. As far as the way that we have programmed the whole site, it is meant to be green certified all the way. But as far as the tower, this is the one that we are going for platinum. Yeah. So when we were designing the financing structure, we thought the best way is to ring fence the tower in the sense that we only raise green sukuk financing for the office floors, which is about 83 floors. The value of this sukuk is about 2 billion. The size of this sukuk is about 2 billion ringgit. And for the upper portion, which is the hotel and also the observation deck, that will be financed separately, also as a sukuk, but not green sukuk. Yeah. So if you can get to the next page, please. So as I said earlier, the financing of the Merdeka Tower, we had decided earlier on that the whole project will be financed by sukuk. And this is very timely because at that point in time in 2017, the ASEAN Green Bond Standards were issued. And Securities Commission Malaysia has also set out requirements for the issuance of sustainable and responsible investment, which is SRI sukuk. And this is very new to Malaysia. And with this kind of development for green sukuk financing, we decided that for the towers portion, we would adopt the green sukuk, and that has been the basis of our financing structure for the Merdeka Wan Tower. Next. And for the green sukuk issuance process, it is very important for the project owners to know right on at the very start whether or not the asset class that we have will be eligible for green sukuk issuance. I think because it has to meet certain criteria. So one of the way for an early assessment is to ensure that the particular product or particular project has got certain, in our case, it is a green building. So therefore, having green building certifications will be useful. And it will give us the ability to know right on, early on, whether we can actually make an application to make the financing green in that context. So that's the word that we have used here, to ring fence them, because if your project is not able to demonstrate that you have green standards, then it's going to be very difficult because it will be then classified as non-green and therefore not eligible. So, and in our case, because when we started the planning and design of the tower, we had targeted right from the beginning that the tower would be certified green through LEED certification, GBI, and greenery. So in a sense, we have really met the first criteria for a green sukuk issuance. So once we identify the asset class, then the next step is to appoint, next please, to have an independent reviewer. This is one of the steps that we have to go through, because the reviewer, the independent reviewer, will give what they call a second opinion, yeah, because we need to have an independent reviewer to determine whether or not our project can be issued a green sukuk. Yeah, unlike renewable energy projects, those are projects which is very easy to be determined because those are obviously energy related, energy savings and so on. Whereas in our case, because we are doing a building, and certainly we want to be sure that we are able to get that certification and therefore eligible to get the green sukuk issuance. So in this case, we have appointed CICERO, which is the short form for Center for International Climate and Environmental Research, based in Oslo, Norway. So what they have a methodology where they will go through the assessment of the project and then issue an opinion, normally called second opinion. And in this case, CICERO adopt a method where they give a shade of green to the green sukuk framework. I will explain in a while what do we mean by green sukuk framework. So the shade of green, when they go through the process, comes in about 3 shades, and the 4th one is brown. So if you are doing, let's say, energy-related project, renewable energy, most likely then you'll be a dark green. Once you go through the process, it will be a dark green certification. Yeah. In our case, we obtain medium green. Yeah, so it is 1 shade lower. Or alternatively, there could be projects that get a light green. And the last one, which is brown, which we don't want to get, because this, once you get a brown color, then it means that the project is not eligible for green sukuk financing. So this is a process that will be done independently by this independent reviewer, which is in this case is based in Norway. So next, what we like to do, or what we have to do rather, as a project issuer, we have to, next please, we have to develop what we call a green sukuk framework at this stage, because we have to kind of provide a report to the second party reviewer. And in this report, we have to outline what they call the green sukuk framework. What are we, why we should be eligible for green sukuk financing. So it covers things like use of proceeds. We have to ensure that whatever finance that we get is going to be used for financing green projects. So that is the first criteria, which is we need to kind of explain, or how are we going to ring fence or make use of this funding for green projects only. So which means that we have to show that we are going to set up a separate account. We have the various controls in place so that this project, or once the green sukuk finance is available, then it will not be used for other non-related project or non-green activities. So that is important as the first step. The second step, which is more detailed, which is the sustainability features of the project. This takes a bit of time because we have got to kind of put together the sustainability features of the project, which means we have to show, for example, if we are using GBI, we have to show the scorecard. How many points have we received in this project for GBI scoring? Likewise for greenery or even the LEED. And then we have to show what are the specific features that we have adopted to explain that our project is really sustainable. To give you an example, in this case, we have to show that our design allows for rainwater harvesting. In our case, it is 100% rainwater harvesting. We have to show that we have actually got enough documentation to support what we say that it is going to be 100% rainwater harvesting. At the same time, we have to show what are other features that we have already incorporated in the design stage, because during this green sukuk framework what you call stage, the project is still under construction. Yeah, so there's not much that you can see over there at the site at that particular point in time. So a lot of things will be dependent on the project reports and so on. So I think this is where we should have enough documentation, and the reports from the various consultants are useful, and it has got to be documented properly, and it will be part and parcel of the process, because once the report is submitted to the reviewer, they will be asking for documentation, the proof of what we are saying. So for example, if we say that in our case, the rainwater is harvested, they want to see what kind of volume of water that we are going to retain or going to harvest, and what will be the use of that water and so on. So similarly, in all other criteria, we have to show proof that the project will actually be doing all these things. Now, the third part, it goes back to the finance, where how do we manage the process? I think this is where they'll be looking at, this is very much on completion of the project or during the construction, where they'll be looking at how have we spent the Sukuk proceeds. They want to know how much, what is how much kind of, how much have we spent the project? And then if we have any balance, where do we put it in the separate funding for it to be used later during construction? And at the same time, look at enough documentation that all these things is being managed properly. Yeah. And number 4, also important for us to commit that whatever financing that we're going to receive for this Green Sukuk, we are committed to report annually to the investors. So, and this reporting would have to be downloaded to the website and available for reviewing. And on top of that, they are looking for commitment that we'll be using a third party to verify the report. So it will not be us, it will be a third party reporting to say, yes, we have followed the necessary framework. This is what we are doing. We validate those things, and therefore it is in order. So having got these 1 to 4 items done, then the whole thing is considered or termed as Green Sukuk framework, because this outlines what we want to do with the funding. And then what we do is that we submit the whole report to the second party reviewer. So upon completion of the evaluation, then the reviewer would issue what they call a second opinion report. So with that report, then we are able to kind of inform our potential investors that we qualify or not for the issuance of the Green Sukuk. Or sometimes if it is not Sharia compliance, it is a green bonds. So that's quite a lengthy process, but this is something that needs to be done. Next, please. So having got through the report, we have been rated medium green. This is still something possible as far as, or acceptable, I would say, for Green Sukuk issuance. And with this certification, then we can actually start the legal due diligence. This process can move on with our legal advisors and so on, so that we can do the lodgement of Sukuk to SC, and subsequently for us to issue the Green Sukuk. Next. And the success or otherwise of this issuance will be shown by the response given by the financial institutions and investors. In our case, the size of the Sukuk is 2 billion ringgit. And we have attracted an over subscription rate of 1.5 times. And considering that it is a tenure for 15 years, I think this is a very good response. And it shows that there is strong interest from financial institutions and investors to kind of invest in green-related issuance. I think there are still not so many issuance which is really green rated. So I think there's room for the future growth of this Sukuk issuance, and I think I'm sure the investors will want also to divest or diversify their financial investment in this sector. Thanks. So we have got this Sukuk now for 3 years. Our issuance was done in 2017. This is our 2nd year of reporting, and coming to 2020 will be our 3rd year. At the end of this year will be our 3rd year, and what we have done is that this is where we need to kind of provide enough documentation, or rather enough information to our investors through what we call a letter to investors, where we have to provide the original amount in the report. We have to state the original amount earmarked for eligible SI project, let's say 2 billion in our case, and then how much have we utilized to date. At the same time, if there's any balance in the account, all those what we call unutilized amount, where have we placed that amount pending utilization? And this often happens because the project sometimes we earmark certain amount of funding, but because of certain projects is a bit slow, for example, then you have a cash balance, or rather in that sense. So then we have to place in either financial institutions and so on, and this need to be reported. And another important aspect also is the impact reporting, and this is a special nature of this green Sukuk, because unlike the normal Sukuk, which is not classified or categorized as such, because in our case, we have to show what are the green features that we have followed, or we have diligently followed during the construction. For example, to give you an idea of how it's been reported, we have to show the recycling percentages, for example, during the construction, how much of the recycling has been achieved whilst we are doing the construction. So, and that has to be tracked throughout the year, and then come back with a percentage in the report. Second point is there any health and safety issues? And we have to report that as well. And because this means that we are serious in ensuring that we comply with the green requirements, and more so when the project is completed, there will be other ways to report, for example, the CO2 monitoring and so on. So that need to be tracked as well. So I believe once the project is completed, there'll be more parameters that need to be explained or reported. And this has got to be in the form of a letter. And this letter is then, or rather these parameters would then have to be validated by a third party, before we put it on our website to show that it is, again, independently checked and for its accuracy. Next. This report normally is known as the letter to investors. We have this posted in our website 2 years now. And I think the whole idea now is to ensure that there is transparency, disclosure, and integrity for the issuance of a green Sukuk. And this commitment has to go on, or the letter to investors need to be issued every year throughout the tenure of the Sukuk financing. In our case, it is 15 years, so we have got to issue almost like 15 letters until the end of the tenure of the project. Next. Now, what are the main advantages of raising green sukuk? To us, which we subscribe fully, is that it's demonstrate and that we are implementing the project considering the ESG issues, for example, which is the environmental, social, and governance issue. The second part, which is also important, is the reputational benefits, which highlights the issuer's green credentials. And in our case, it is supported by the issuance of the green certifications from LEED, from GBI, or even from Green RE. And also, it also means that we exhibit our support for green investment. And the third part is also for management purposes. It provides tracking of proceeds, how the proceeds are being used, and also reporting. This would essentially means improve internal governance. So because we have to ensure that throughout the year, which we have got to, at the end of the year, we have got to show the report, we have to ensure that these are, all these finance or funds are properly tracked and recorded, so that it's easy for us to be audited at the end of the year, and also at the same time to be able to be validated by the third party, by external auditors. And fourthly, which is also important, it shows our commitment to exclusively use the funds for green projects. I think, as I said, the future, there is certainly a growth opportunity for this sector. And as more and more investors and financial institutions are going to diversify their investment in this portfolio, I think there's opportunity for these funds to grow and attract in what we call it strong interest, to ensure that more and more developers will also be able to go and for this sort of green buildings in a more bigger way. At the same time, shows that there are investors out there who's willing to match their funding to green projects. And we are very kind of delighted that when we start the journey 3 years ago, we were kind of informed that green buildings can apply or can be certified for green sukuk, because all the while it's always been the domain of energy-related projects, renewable projects. It's quite easy to relate that they are obviously green and so on, therefore it's easy to get green sukuk. But for green buildings, I think we have kind of showed that we can do it. So, but it's a matter of early planning. And I think as a kind of learning experience to share with everyone is that we have to decide early what we want to do with the project. And if we have already decided that this project is going to have green features, then it provides us an opportunity to go for another alternative form of financing, which is green sukuk financing. And I'm sure there'll be a pool of investors that will be looking to invest their funds in green-related projects. And I think that's where the matching project is particularly important and useful for us as project issuers. I think that's basically what I'd like to share today. And I think for us, it is a very interesting journey, and we are still a long way to go. We have just done 3 years out of 15 years for the tenure of this green sukuk issuance, but certainly I think that it has been a useful program for us, and I'm sure we would like to, certainly we would like to see more and more projects would embark on the same journey, so that we can then raise up the awareness that for the betterment of the world. Actually, once we go this, we are also making sure that the climate issues are also addressed. I think we are doing a bit of our part in this whole process, and certainly we will be tracking what we have done, and then look towards more successful issuance of green sukuk in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tunku Dato Abdul Aziz bin Tunku Mahmud, CEO of PNB Merdeka Ventures Sdn Berhad. We are live with the Q&A here, and please drop in any questions you have for Tunku. They will be answered through MGBC later on. I take great interest in seeing that a fully fledged green sukuk financing project live, that we be able to see and learn from the example of how the processes are for financing big projects like PNB's Merdeka 118. The interest for me here is that there was at least 3 green tools that were doing the certification of this, and is part of the transparency of achieving targets. The other point is that the CICERO, which is Center for International Climate Environmental Research, Norway, are basically the third party in reviewing part of the sukuk. And how the project spends the money throughout the duration of the construction is very, very transparent. And that there was an oversubscription to the 2 billion funds that were put in for this project. So this is our largest legacy that is going to be completed very soon. And it's good to know that a project of this dimension went in and was successful to get funding by Sukuk, and that the impact reporting, both in terms to the client, which is in this case PNB Merdeka Ventures, in demonstrating and implementing project insurance approach, the reputation benefits, not to count the obviously return of investment once this building is completed. Now we have a question here. We do have lots of high rise, and yet most of the floors are still empty. What would be the difference with this tower to ensure maximum occupancy of the building? It's a very interesting question as we look into the landscape of Kuala Lumpur City. Kuala Lumpur itself has more than 50 buildings that are over 30 stories high. And I think that the current glut perhaps in the high-rise property development in the city is only temporary. And the completion of this tower, I won't be answering with regards to Tunku. We will open it up to him later on for the answers. But I'm assuming that the PNB is basically going to be moving to this tower, and there are other tenants that have already been anchored to this tower. No development goes up of this kind without anchor tenants that have been looked at for a tower. And being a mixed development, this tower is not standing on its own. It has a mixed development of both having a TOD, which is a transportation right directly rail system to the development, but it also has a commercial component. We'll leave it open for any questions for the next 5 minutes, of which all will be directed directly to PNB and MGBC and will be answered directly to you. If you can leave your email, they will be answered directly to you. So I noticed that this project started in 2017, and right from the commencement of the project, green sukuk was considered. I think that's quite important for anybody who's going ahead to develop projects of anything from 200 million and above. I understand green sukuk has already opened to projects that are of this kind of scale. And So it'd be interesting to see if we will be getting any other projects in the pipeline which will consider green sukuk or green bonds or climate bond in securing their projects. Obviously, the CO2 monitoring that was mentioned by Tengku, I think the recycling achieved, the water energy monitoring, all of these are very important in terms of the climate action that we're going ahead. And in principle, we really should be looking at a 30% minimum reduction across the board in terms of our water, energy, and in some cases, renewable energy in any development going forward. I think that would be the new norm when we are creating new developments. If there are no more new questions, I would like to thank Tengku Dato' Abdul Aziz bin Tengku Mahmud for the information, for an exemplary of Green Sukuk, which is probably one of the first projects that we are seeing here being profiled. This afternoon at 2:30, we will be having another session, a panel session called Policies and Practices to Enhance Green Finance. The panelists will include Datin Sri Sunita Rajakumar, Mr. Pramod Das from RAM Sustainability, Ms. Luan Sia from CIMB, Architect Von Kot Leong from Malaysia GBC, and the moderator will be BK Sinha. So we look forward to seeing you at 2:30 on this panel discussion, which will be live and interactive. So we look forward to you attending and giving us some of your feedback with regards to policies and practices on green finance. Thank you very much. I will leave the room now and see you this afternoon.